light that goes off lets us know. Is that Miranda?
Jeremy should just come around the corner and give you a thumbs up. Miranda, are we good?
What's that? Okay. So we'll start budget committee meeting Wednesday, June 10th. Call to order. We'll do a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, so we'll start with any amendments to the agenda.
No? No.
Good, okay.
I'll make a motion then to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Agenda is good. Moving on to public comments. Do you have any public comments today?
No cards.
No members of the public.
Okay. So we will go to appoint budget officer, which whether he volunteered or was asked, Treasurer Nick. Do we need to, I guess, vote on that?
I'll make a motion to appoint the budget officer as our treasurer, Nicholas Vicino.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. None? Okay, Nick, congrats. Budget officer. So then we will review budget message. Yeah, but
Yeah, you guys. I gotta make some more copies, I'll bring it back. Let's do everything in the packet. That's okay, I'll bring it back.
Okay. What we may want to do is have you on there so Nick can have a.
oh, I printed that one out last night. But you should. I think it's
Yeah.
Otherwise he won't have a microphone. You okay with that,
maybe admins.
Chair?
What's that?
Nick, so he has a microphone.
Oh, okay.
He's gonna read the message and
Okay.
be part of the conversation.
What was that?
Yeah.
World is- Here it is. Go basically the page right before road.
Where's his laptop? Oh.
This is Nick's too.
Yeah,
So yeah, you're looking at.
that's what he's really gonna need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. We moved you up here so you'd have a microphone.
All right.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks, Paul.
Extra copies for the kids.
Thank you.
Not really.
You want to read it into the record? The budget message? Do you
No,
want
sorry?
it, do you want it read into the record, the budget message?
I guess if you want to summarize it or anything, key points that budget officer wants
Key
to.
points are, well, like last. Oh, my bad.
You gotta
So,
help
we
him
talked
out.
about key
Help
points
him
or
out.
where we get our different types of funding.
Push the button.
Then the changes this year is what, the COLA, is it working? Oh, my bad.
Okay, there you go. So we went in lengthy discussing where we get our different types of funding from the assessors, towers fund, community development. The changes this year, we went over the cost of living adjustments. We talked about where we moved things over, like emergency management was moved back to community development, capital funding, things like that, deferred maintenance. And then we talked about the administrative services changes. They were assessed to the general fund departments, have been reallocated to avoid artificial inflated general funds, what we talked about the last meeting. Commissioner Trost brought up. We also moved the surveyor and cornerstones. We created new funds for them, restricted funds. That was something that was big, but Scott Fine wanted. So they have their own special revenue fund, and we just created those last week. So more clarity as far as what the surveyor has in their funds. The big part is revenue. I wanted to talk about how the county received 2 SRS payments, one from last year and one from this year. And the other big thing is the ONC funding, which we got that news last week. And our hope is that it keeps on going up the next few years. And I talked about tax rate and what our estimated tax revenue for next year will be. Pretty much synopsis of it. But I think the big message is that the ONC funding is going to really be critical for us going forward. So it was nice to get those funds last week, and hopefully we'll see them go up.
Nick, when you say you hope to see them built up, are you talking about that the sum actually might be increased even during
Yeah.
this
Mhm.
period? Okay.
Yeah, so what Commissioner Trost talked about last week is we hope to see more production from our timber,
Okay.
and we hopefully they keep on going up and up, because that's a big help for us, because that goes straight to our general fund.
But I'm trying to figure out, are you talking about this budget year? or-
No, next year,
Okay,
in the
gotcha.
future. Mhm.
Okay, any additional comments or questions on budget message?
If you'll allow me, I have just one comment before we
Yeah,
dive
go ahead.
deep into this. So the sheets that we're looking so the costs are going to be lower than if we were to approve the FTE changes. There is a handout that I have as well that highlights and shows the changes, so what gets approved in there, we can go through and modify, but just wanted to leave with that. So if any of those FTE changes get approved, then the cost will increase.
Okay, so current budget book reflects status quo, just COLA increases.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, if no questions on budget message, then we're looking at review of proposed budget. Actually, if possible, I wanted to start with, I think Rabia sent us current year.
The balance sheets.
Current year on revenues, the general fund. And I'm just curious if there's still money coming in, like some of those ONC payments, because right now, year-to-date actual for general fund, showing 3.8 million to a budget that was budgeted for 7.1 million.
So you're going to see another $1 million increase after today.
So another million.
And 1,008,000 some change.
That's what came in last week.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no ONC money in there, right?
And this. Nope.
No PILT funds as of today. We haven't seen any PILT money.
No ONC included in this.
No, there's not. They'll be in today. So you just add that in.
Okay, so if we add in the 1 million, that still brings us up to 4.8 million when budgeted for 7.1. I guess what other additional revenues are we expecting in this month as we close out this year?
It would have to I'm not getting notifications on what's coming in. So I can update it when anyone if any big payments are hitting. But yeah, I just usually get emails the day of, or I'll get, like Commissioner Trost gave me a warning about last week with ONC money, but just whatever comes in, and I will update it as we go.
Scott, this goes back to the initial conversation we had the first week. The majority of what you're seeing is the crossovers, is the multiple. It's the counting of it twice in multiple departments.
This is just money coming in.
But it counts. So in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but they would count it as money going to the department, and then money coming from the department being allocated for admin expenditures as a revenue. So that was the revenue coming out of the department. The department was paying the revenue for the admin expenses. Do you understand?
Okay.
So that's why I was adamant in trying to get those things squared, because they don't square.
Yeah, so you're saying as the treasurer office pays for admin services.
No, the treasurer office paid the departments, and then the departments transferred, and that counted as revenue into an admin.
Yeah, so that assessor payment of whatever they were charged, 80,000.
So 2.8, right, was coming out of all of the said departments into the admin fund as revenue, because it was identified as money coming in that was already expensed out to the departments, which is why I just don't, that's why I was.
Yeah, okay, so, 2025 budget, basically, resources coming from other departments was 2.2 million. That would have put us right about at 7, and so just 200,000 shy of budget.
So that's why that money was just, it doesn't feel transparent, because it's not true revenue. It's interdepartmental agreements using the same dollar.
And going forward from here on out, it's always going to be done this way.
Well, we're gonna figure out the right method. The method hasn't been solved.
Good method.
We need a good method. But once we figure out a good method, then I think we can have something that allows us to move forward in a more kind of linear way.
And what's reflective of the updated sheets today as far as admin?
They're just the increase of COLA.
So we still left the admin blank on all these,
They're not blank.
I mean, the allocation things,
Yeah, allocation,
right? Are they're not in the departments or
They,
They're not.
they're not,
all right, okay.
What we're doing, which I believe this is what was requested, was that we were not going to be doing the transfers from each of the departments into admin services. What we're doing is just covering the admin services directly with a transfer from the general fund. And that's what's reflected in the sheets currently.
I guess I'm not following, so you're saying it wasn't double counted then?
It's not
No.
counted.
Okay.
That's why it says 4 point whatever, as opposed to 7 point whatever.
Right, so,
I think the easiest way to see it in a realistic standpoint, in admin services, on the last page in indirect services, there's going to be, if you look at the 25 actual and 26 budget, they're going to have the numbers of 2.2 and then 2.08. If you notice in the.
let us get on the same page.
Yeah. Say that again, which one, you're on admin services, where?
Correct, the last page of admin services.
Okay.
The indirect services page.
12?
It's right before reserves and grants, the page right before that.
Over there, yeah, they're in.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So if you notice how all in the 26, 27 proposed column are zeros throughout, but only the number from general fund, this is what's reflecting that there's no more transfers from each of the departments. It's only the general fund that's going to be covering what's needed in admin services. So this is avoiding making sure that things are not double counted.
So, Leaf, can I ask a question? So one of the big things that was undecided, well, that wasn't finalized was where we were with the COLAs after so we got those things, that was bargained. We know what those numbers are. Okay, so once you put in those numbers this last week, where are we at with revenue and expenditures? What's the gap
Right now, this is the big.
with the current FTEs?
Current FTEs, I don't have the total number of FTEs that I know right off.
No, but it was a status quo, you put together the status quo budget with just inserting the COLAs and the PERS. And so what's the number now in terms of expense and revenue? What is there left to work with, if there's any?
Yes.
That's the question that we all want in front of us.
Of course, so I actually have the answer for that. If you go to the tab right before the road fund, it's gonna be the last page of the general fund. It's the yellow highlight itself. Right now, there's a deficit of 65,000 that we need to cover with additional resources. So that's what we need to cover
Okay.
right now.
Okay, so there are no additional resources. So I was not only misguided in optimism, I needed to be pessimistic. And let me ask this part then, does that include the compensation committee's recommendations?
It does not, so.
So we're 65 grand over without doing compensation committee adjustments, just status quo.
And does that also not include some of the additional items that were put in by the various departments?
FTEs?
Those are all not,
No,
It
like-
includes all of the requests from all the departments except for the FTE changes. So everything that they requested for capital outlay and increased materials and services, those are reflected in here. Okay, it's just the FTE increases, which this handout as well, I don't know if everyone got a copy of this, but this will highlight the changes so we can pick and select which ones we feel are reasonable, and then just know that in addition to the 65,000 that we're going to need to cover with additional resources, any approved changes for the FTEs, we're going to need more additional resources to cover those.
And that leads us to the next piece, is that status quo, only increases in software and capital outlays, no elected official raises, but under the assumption that total resources is going from 7 million to 10 million.
Where are you seeing that total resources?
That would be general fund, non-departmental.
On the same page with the the 65.
Yeah, basically go back one page.
Correct, yes. So that non-departmental of 10 million. Yes, so that includes all of that. This includes all of the transfers to the various departments that need funding, as well as the transfer to admin indirect services of the 2.9. You kind of see halfway up the page up there. So yes, the total resources is not reflective of any of those FTE changes like currently.
Yeah, well, no, what I'm saying is we need to, we're assuming that we're generating $3 million more,
Correct.
and we're still gonna be 65,000 short.
Correct.
And that's, I guess that's what I would prefer to go through next, is just seeing why we, you know, what our, just how we got to 10 million.
What are the major increases?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, marijuana tax went from, you know,
Up to 850.
historically 100 1 year, 60 1 year. Now we're thinking 850. So, you know, 800,000 increase. You know, why?
I don't,
Those are the numbers that I was given in the sheets that were returned. I don't have an explanation for the
Okay.
increase.
You know, the other question is, you know, we got the PILT, the O&C, and DAS all for 1.1 million each. And that kind of went back to that question about, you know, the ebb and flow of PILT versus O&C. And then just, you know, property taxes, an extra 400,000.
That one's pretty easy to calculate.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's traditionally the increase has been
It's 3%.
100, okay, 100,000, and then 400,000.
Was there something unique with the co-op too? I saw that last night too. The co-op went way up, and then it's back down again. Taxes for electric co-op. Something happened in 26. That was unique.
With the agreement. It probably just reflects a real number. I think in the past, a lot of those numbers got transferred over year after year without a lot of scrutiny, if you will. And I think they just reflect more accurate information.
But Nick, like the, I think I'm missing too much, but electric co-op, so we had budgeted at 750. I didn't look at the May number to see where we're at collection wise. Is that, we have to get that 750 in 26?
It depends on when we receive the funds and checks. Like I have no, how do I say it? I have no,
I mean, I guess, like, why is it $300,000 more? The average looks around 430 to.
it could,
465
I mean,
in this budget. What happened in 26 that increased?
maybe, I don't know off the top of my head, but maybe because the I don't know if Beacon Broadband had an effect on that or anything like that. That'd be my educated guess.
Year to date shows the more traditional 465.
I mean, we can get a check from them today. Who knows? That's the other thing is when they come in, I just receive their checks. So it just depends.
We don't have a receivable with them, or how's that work?
They get it. They send us a check, and then the check comes to me, and then I deposit it in the bank. It's kind of an archaic method.
Do you know what we're supposed to get?
I do not know. They send it in a letter with a check. I have no warning or any.
There's an agreed upon rate. Obviously, it's probably like 7%. It hasn't been negotiated for a really long time. Now,
I was-
we were,
65 grand, and there's
we-
some difference there, so I'm just trying to find where there may be some up. Okay.
so I don't know how, super deep you guys want to go, but we can go as far as we want.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is just making sure that we're starting with money that we, you know, we're gonna have. Because I mean, historically, you know, like if you go back, we've always been a little overshot, but not bad. 22, 23 was, from budgeted to what happened was about 300,000. Same thing, 23, 24, 24, 25. If I did my numbers right, we're more like 800,000 off of what we were expecting. And again, this year's kind of a little bit different, I guess, to try to predict. But plus the 1, O and C, I mean, kind of roughing out this year, gonna end at 6.8. Which if you go back to what we worked on the 25-26 adopted budget, you know, we started with 7.4 is what we thought.
I'm still on non-departmentals.
So I guess not even looking too much at historical, but just like this year alone, you know, why, just making sure that that 3 million is going to show up. I mean, how confident are you guys on that? Oh, I guess my other question was the unassigned fund balance. You know, that's 1.5 million. So I mean, that's half of that 3 right there. Is that just that carryovers from year before? Or what?
Could you just bear with me and tell me where you are in the budget sheets?
Oh, okay. So this is
It's the last sheet in the
In which distribution?
section.
Okay. The last page?
The last piece of paper, but the front one of the last piece of paper.
I believe it's the general fund non-department.
Yeah, general fund, non-department.
Okay.
It'll be the page right before the road fund in the packet.
I think those packets are the new packets up there.
These are different than what
oh
Rapia
yeah.
sent
Do you
to
guys
us
have?
last night?
There are a bunch of extra copies here.
Yeah, you guys took your binders, they're here.
Oh,
That might help. That.
that'll help.
Yeah.
Thanks, Leaf.
People get binders before we fill them last night.
And while I'm distributing these, I'm also going to distribute those worksheets as well.
Oh, makes sense.
Okay. So Leaf, in this package, we're where now?
So it'll be right before the road fund. It'll be that last page.
Okay.
And then the front side of that one.
Okay. Thank you.
I got the copy already. I got one of those. Yeah, thank you.
That one's like reference it.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
There, questions, and we left road funds the same, the 1229 or whatever it is. Sheriff. And these numbers probably didn't change road fund dollars.
Do you mind if I grab one of these?
Go for it.
All right. Yeah. Where do you want me?
I did-
You're just stepping back, Lynn, is basically. I just want to make sure we're not overshooting.
Sure.
We're already
Okay, so I know some of a few of these answers,
okay.
I believe. Start with marijuana tax. That 850 is the accumulation of what is currently in the budget that hasn't been expended. So that's what's available, rolling over.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
It looks like in your taxes co-op, Dan, that last year it was budgeted for 760, or 750. This year, they're budgeting 465, which is going to be closer to, I think, what was expected to be brought in. So last year's estimate was off. So this year it was corrected. We obviously know the increase in TLT tax, what that's from, going up from 7 to 10% plus being able to go 50-50 for half the year. You know, the one that's, I think where a significant portion of the money that you're looking for, or that we're looking for, is truly coming through the unassigned fund balance, which, because the prior years had not been reconciled or audited, we did not have a actual number. That was the purpose of what Leaf and Eric, we're working on. So in the past, that number is not reflected at zero, it's reflected at zero. We knew there was a rollover balance, but because we never had an audit completed, because our books were not completed, we had to put a zero there. So we were essentially operating a little, obviously, we knew we were operating in the blind at that point. But now that number's being reflected in the revenue line. So when you take that number and the 5% land sale, the Department of State 5% land sales estimate, and the overall quantity of marijuana tax funds, now you're at your number. Does that make
So
sense?
the unassigned balance is all those positions that we allocated for in previous budgets.
Or materials and service, it's whatever was not spent.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We are currently working on as well, but I already listed these sheets to you, but we are also actively working on that. We're gonna be able to provide those probably in the next couple of weeks, and then just know that those are also contingent on the audits not being done.
Talking about like buttoning up 2026?
No, 24.
24, okay.
So, yeah, starting from 24, 25, 26, it's gonna be those unassigned fund balance. We'll be able to have updated numbers for those, but those are also contingent on the fact that the audits have not been done. And so they are gonna be subject to change just based on audit adjustments and developers judgment.
Yeah, I mean, just going off last year, if we expected an extra 300,000 of electric co-op that we didn't get, that unassigned balance could significantly disappear.
Well,
I think it'll significantly disappear, but it's just gonna be, it's
Variable.
Yeah, that's why we aren't super comfortable putting a lot of those solid numbers in here quite yet, because we don't wanna get people's hopes up and then have them just crushed when the audit comes back.
Didn't we talk about reconciliation as far as just funds, aren't we reconciled through?
we are.
February or March or?
No, we're reconciled through now. But we haven't completed our financial audits for those previous years. And until those are done, you can't have an actual number. We go off the estimates. So when Eric and Leaf get done getting the audits finished, then we're really firing on all cylinders. Everything's reconciled, but we got to get audited for those reconciliations. Because you got to remember, in one single year, there was $38 million in bank adjustments. I mean, that's insane. We have to square that circle, So it gets.
The other way to say it, but this 1479 would have come through the reconciliation work, right? That's how we got to that.
Yes.
That's a carryover that we have from the 26 budget, so we figured that that was gonna be a reasonable number to put in there as a placeholder for now. Okay. Based on what was in the 26 budget. As soon as the budget gets wrapped up, squared away, our full focus is gonna be taking care of the audit for 24, getting those numbers, and then moving on to the audit for 25, and just making sure that things are caught up, and when it comes to the budget next year, we come back and
So-
have a much better estimate for all of
Leaf,
these.
I guess one of the questions we all have is, you'll be wrapped up with 24 in a couple of weeks.
It might be longer than that. but it's-
Okay. Could we estimate that by January, we'll be fully caught up with our audits?
I'm gonna say conservatively, no. That is our goal and our hope. I also don't wanna get hopes up if something happens. It's also coordinating with the auditors to see and
Yeah.
make sure that they have time to be able to perform the 25 audit.
Mhm.
So that is our hope, that is our goal, but I don't wanna concretely say yes right now and then have it come back and basically we didn't hit that mark. So it's gonna be coordinating with the auditors, make sure that they have time, and then just the workload that we have available. But that is our priority and our focus, trying to get those done as quickly as possible.
Got it. Now, one question I would have, Nick, that may help us get to where we need to be with just in terms of close to balance zero, is we have more in our, do we have more in our, I always say it backwards.
LGIP?
Yes.
Yes, as opposed to last year?
Yes.
Yes, and the road fund also.
So here's one area that we may have underestimated in terms of revenue, is an allocated interest. Because in last year's actual, for the general fund, for the
LGFE.
LGIP, if we have more in there, last year we had 376,000, right now we're estimating 300,000. It would be reasonable to think that we will have actually probably a little more than 376,000 in allocated interest, which gets us to our 65 grand. But it doesn't adjust for anything else.
I will notice,
Do you see that, Scott?
on that topic as well.
Or Nick,
on the
sorry.
general fund
I got you, brother.
level, within the revenue there, after speaking with Rubio, we used some of the money from Title III, the allocated interest, to actually help cover some of the deficit that was already there. So that 65,000 is including 110,000 of allocated interest from Title III that's being transferred to the general fund to help cover some of that deficit.
Right. But it doesn't, it's not including, it's including a very conservative $300,000 from our overall treasury, which I think we can safely agree that will be, closer to 400, because we have more in there. Now, interest rates went down by 0.5% since last year. So there's going to be some equalization there. But it should be close.
I think that's one of the things I was too conservative on estimates.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah, and there's also, as part of that 65K, we're also we're gonna get the marijuana tax money is gonna come in, so which I will put in this current fiscal year. That will probably be anywhere from $25,000 to $30,000. And then we also have CAFA, which is going to hit for the previous for this quarter. And I was just looking at their forecast as far as, well, their forecast just gives the overall state, doesn't give it county by county. But that last deposit was $39,000 that we got. So I think the 65K, once we get everything processed through, because we'll put it in this current fiscal year, it won't be there. Let's put it that way.
You mean we'll cover the 60?
We'll cover. Oh yeah, we'll cover it.
So we just need to know or make the adjustments into the revenue lines that are reflective of that.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's updated projections that we think are more reasonable, that's what I'm gonna write into this approved column and then go back and clean up the spreadsheets to kind of incorporate all the changes that we wanted to make. Look at that from a calculation standpoint as well. Also, those FTEs that we want to look through and approve those, I'm also gonna note the changes in here and then go back and update for everything that we wanna look at in the ground.
So,
Not in the road funds, Nick, but just like in, I guess, general fund savings. What is our total in savings for general funds?
So for saying, so we are at over $18 million in our main investment account.
Okay, 18. That's just for general fund. That's not including any road funds or anything.
No, the road funds, if you want that, that's a whole separate.
Yeah, no, that's what I didn't want the road.
Yeah, there's separate there's a road pool and then our pool, the county's general fund pool, so.
So the 18 is county general fund.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it general fund, but
Okay.
it's what we have in our.
Right.
it's an accumulation of all the funds.
Right.
And it's basically a working account.
Correct.
The treasurer pulls money out of there to pay bills. And then when money is sent to us, it goes directly into that account. So it's basically our working investment account. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking more for like rainy day fund. I mean, you're talking about
Yeah.
all the restricted funds and all the extras are sitting in there.
Yes.
Collecting interest. I mean, I guess so rainy day funds directly, general fund usage. Do you have any idea what that is?
No, that's just, I just have the total of the whole thing. I couldn't tell you like by which department without going into, like we said, the balance that Leaf was talking about.
So, I mean, just my concern, looking at all this, we have some one-time monies to get to that 10 million. We're gonna use it all this year.
Well, There's not a lot of one-time money in there. I don't know what you're seeing, but,
Well, just the 1.5 rollover and the
well, that's,
850,000 of marijuana tax.
so every year we use our rollover funds in the, I mean, the rollover funds are an essential part of the whole budget process. So, yeah,
Oh, yeah, so
but they're not a revenue. I get what you're saying. They're not an actual revenue.
Which do you piece that out over
Right.
the next 3 years, you know? Use 500,000 out of that each year.
Sure.
To help us get through, you know, until that sustained revenue comes through.
Right.
Because like I say, same thing with the marijuana tax, it's gonna go back down after this year to, you know, I guess somewhere in that 100.
It's going to go back down to what we receive.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's spent.
Yes.
Right. So, I think I think what we're doing right now is we're forecasting into a budget with the anticipation of having a full annual year of 50/50 TLT, right, which is going to increase our allotment in the next budget. In conjunction with that, anticipating the increase in timber revenues, being able to fully realize the 75-25 split, and with the increase in board feet harvested. That's the anticipated goal. So if we do this year in terms of a status quo, you know, because the roll-up costs were a lot more than any of us anticipated because of the additional PERS and COLAs that were negotiated just last week. So that in total sum took away all of my optimism in terms of
Do we have a rough estimate what that total was?
the total roll-up costs.
Are you talking, so for the current budget, what all personnel costs are?
No, what the increase,
The increase in the, well, you could look at last year's total personnel costs and then compare it to this year's proposed total personnel costs.
Yes.
That will give us the number, but,
On this spreadsheet, but the total current personnel cost, this isn't compared to last year, this is just what we have in the budget right now, is like 15.1 million. Is gonna be the total personnel cost, including everything. I can absolutely, after we get done today, tomorrow or Friday, put together what the personnel costs were, 25, 26, and then we can use that as a comparison. I just don't have it offhand right
so
now.
I was just curious, year over year, what did the
Well, no,
COLA
this is,
adjustments?
Absolutely, and
With
that wouldn't
the
be
new
very
years
difficult
already.
already, so happy to do that as well.
yeah. And I mean, and the reality is
I know ours, not the overall cost, but the percentages.
we know, yeah, I think, we know the percentages, but I think we need to know what that translates to in money, in overall cost, but
Because last year, was it 900,000?
was 740,
740 was
right?
last
And
year.
we got the 900 to come in and cover it.
Yeah.
That's what happened last year.
Okay, it was 740, so.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, just slightly.
It's gonna be,
It's a rough
well, it's
guess,
gonna be,
by 800.
it's gonna be considerably more,
Oh, really?
considerably more.
Yeah.
Because okay, so Sergeant Westerman, the COLA percentage, what ended up being negotiated for this upcoming year is,
3, but our contract is 3 years, so the last year instead of in this is 5.
okay,
And this year's 3, and then the county picked up the 6% first.
right, so I mean, when you're looking at 9%, is a total, and that's not a total 9%, but,
But we had built in the budget, the 3 then, so
so,
the delta is the 6% PERS, the predominant, what I'm hearing, that's probably the delta.
That's also
But that wasn't in our estimate.
correct. And but, I mean, to keep in mind, these were things that, they really needed to be done to get our deputies up to
Yeah, no.
closer to a market.
I'm just asking, so we, in the proposed, we had 3% already in, but what we found out as of last week, that went up based on the 6% versus the bulk of that change. That wasn't in the.
So last week, we didn't have any of none of it was built in.
Okay.
It all got put in that last week in here. So it consumed whatever we thought we had left.
That was the biggest bulk of the changes in comparison to the last time you saw these budget spreadsheets versus today. The personnel costs are the biggest driving factor. There was a couple of transfers that we did, and a couple of little more minor stuff, but the biggest overall change was the personnel costs and getting those all updated.
Yeah.
And then also counting.
I just want to ask this one more time. So prior to last week, we did factor in some increase though, right? In the
Yes.
budgets we saw originally.
In ours, it was, I did factor it in with Rabia last week when I presented to you guys on Thursday.
And we did it
With
in
our
all departments, or?
As far as
Did we do
that,
it, yeah, the normal COLA increases with the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
About this week.
So the difference between that and what happened last week is what?
Like a dollar amount?
Well, no, what's the difference? Was it a higher percentage than we thought in the negotiations, or what happened to the projection? We projected an increase for wages, right? So what's that different? Not the amount, just what changed?
Well, Leaf, you'd probably need answers. My understanding is that that last week, COLAs were not worked in.
Polls were not there. I believe the first pickup wasn't let in there. It was basically the status quo from what we had the prior year.
Okay. So we didn't put any increase in. We did not.
Correct.
We did.
No.
Okay, so let's reconcile what the sergeant's saying. Did you incorporate her COLAs in your calculations, or is that something that she did?
That's something that she did. We got the sheets returned and then we're updated from there. We got one set of personnel worksheets back that had all of the numbers. Then we received a second set of the same worksheets that were updated to include COLA and PERS. I think the sheriff's office was one that, I'm trying to remember exactly, got a lot of.
Sure, I'm just trying to figure out the character of the number, not what the number is. And the sergeant's been saying that she did calculate those. I'm just trying to find out, was that what we looked at last week?
I can tell you, we got.
No, it's not what we looked at last. It's not.
What we looked at last week.
Yeah, we got one set of personnel worksheets when we built them originally, which is what you saw last time. Then we got return updated projection numbers, and we just took those spreadsheets, put those numbers into what's approved today. So the changes that were made, I was told that there was COLA increases, I was told that there was a PERS pickup, but it was just the spreadsheets that got returned and said, here, this is what we believe that's the reasonable.
Yeah, we sent an email. I think it was last Thursday or Friday, I mean, with the instructions of what we were going to do as far as the increases. Yeah. So these are they're reflective.
So we were working off of sheets that we knew weren't accurate because we didn't have any kind of increase for wages then, right?
Correct. As of last week, yes. But these are reflective of what our information as is, right?
Well, I guess we just work our way through. That's our best estimated educated guess there for revenues. I think we just work our way through the expenditures of non-departmental, and then start looking at administrative services, since we listened to we went through all the other departments in the last meeting. Sound all right?
Yeah, so it's going to be status quo from last year. Administrative services, no change. in terms of FTEs.
Oh, let's get through non-departmental. I guess the one question was, liability insurance. Years past was 0 and 1,500, and then 160,000. What was the change on that? Or the catalyst for, I guess, that change? Why was it 0 in the past?
Where are you at,
I'm
Nick?
still on the general fund.
General fund?
non-departmental.
Okay, non-departmental?
We just got through resources. So now we're just down to line 37.
Correct. The good news is, Rabia's here to help with this. Okay. I don't see it.
Line 37?
Line 37 on general fund, non-departmental.
Mine goes to 20. I mean, I'm sure I have the same thing. I'm just not looking at the right pages.
Okay. 37 on this page.
Oh, we're going the other way. Okay.
Are we asking about the insurance?
Yeah.
Cost? In years past, that was just charged to accounting. That's the portion of general liability that is not directly associated with a department or a department's activities. So that's why it's there now, because I think last year we just paid like $287,000 out of accounting, which doesn't.
Okay, so we're moving it from accounting,
Yeah.
Oh, got it.
general fund. And that is our standard liability policy
Correct.
for the accounting.
Overall, I think it's about $370,000, which is only about, I think it's increasing $20,000 this year.
You say overall,
So the remainder, the difference between that 160 and the total is charged out to departments,
okay,
based on the liability.
okay. That's not new, that is accounted for in a new spot now.
Did you get to where you needed, did we, with the, hold on, Rabia, because did you get to where you needed to be with the COLA and roll-up costs? Because I think she is gonna have a really good idea of where that was.
The difference in COLA?
Yes.
Well, I understand our last conversation a couple minutes ago, we didn't factor in any increase in wages.
No increases in wages. Just
I wasn't able to calculate out a number because the sheets that we had initially had included the asks for additional positions. So once we got these back, I didn't have time to total out what the increase in that was. I can get that to you guys.
No, but the initial question was in the previous budgets we were looking at, those roll-up costs weren't included at that time yet because we didn't know exactly what they were, except for
Last year, for example?
no this year.
Well, the budget sheets we originally started working with for this year,
Correct. Those did not include.
there was no increases at all.
Correct.
Yeah. And so this one reflects that. We don't know, well, I mean, we can do some quick math to figure out the difference. It's gonna be substantial. Well, I mean, I could just start with one of them, is I was just going into it prior to that, saying, okay, it looks like we have 1.2, right? And so if you were estimating it close to 740 like last year, like, okay, we're gonna have a couple 400,000 we can figure out what we wanna do with. So I'm gonna just go out on a limb and say it's pretty much close to eating up the rest of that 400,000. So was there, let me ask you this, Rabia, and Leaf. So we know that there was roll-up costs. Was the difference in roll-up costs in patrol covered by roads or covered by general fund? If we didn't increase the road fund contribution, then it would be covered by general fund, if I'm,
The road fund contribution to the general.
to patrol.
Patrol.
So that's gonna be a little bit difficult to look at on here because these budgets don't include the contribution to admin services. So I would say that to the extent admin services went down, that was able to equalize
Right.
the increased cost of the COLAs and the first pickup.
Sure, but, I mean, if we know that there was increased roll-up costs in patrol, but we didn't increase the contribution, then we know that it was covered by general fund, had to be covered, that was the only other option to cover that, those increased PERS and COLAs for dep.
General fund contribution was not increased over the previous year. But I see what you're saying. I don't-
My math isn't mathing then.
Just so that we're on the same page, which patrol are you looking at?
Civic.
Are you looking- what was that?
So,
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure that I was looking at the right thing.
That's a good point, though, you're making.
Yeah, you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
There is a transfer in that we have from the general fund for civil criminal patrol. It was not budgeted in '26, it was budgeted in '25.
Right.
So we are using that to cover some of the deficit. The transfer in from the road capital improvement fund is slightly less than what it was last year, but.
That number hasn't changed, though, with Jay's point, that number was, since day one of this year, that's been in there.
Right. So I guess what I'm getting at is if the estimated interest allocated on the road funds has increased and we're able to adjust that, then we're not only going to just cover the $65,000 deficit, but we're possibly going to be able to cover the compensation committee's asks. Now, I don't care necessarily about my position getting an increase, but the other electeds haven't had one for 3 years, and I would like to try to figure out a way to honor that in some respect. You see where I'm going with that?
I do.
So, now, we know we've done well with the road fund reserves, and we've been able to get those road fund reserves back in a direction where they're starting to build. And the roads department did get they got their FEMA funding back, which was a tremendous deal. So if we have more allocated interest in there that can be applied to then assist in freeing up some of the general fund that's covering that, to cover for some of the compensation committee's asks, then I'm okay. Does that make sense to everyone?
Does to me.
Okay. We're not gonna be able to get any of the asks, and you know what? And that's on me, and I apologize because I was not only hopeful, but I know there were other departments that were hopeful, and obviously without seeing real numbers, that optimism quickly diminishes into disappointment. And it will, but that was necessary. That's a necessary. So, that.
So if you look, so we're saying, we're forecasting
Nick, you got to plug it right up here too, I think.
Road capital improvement fund. Actually, that's last year.
So Nick has his last treasury sheet and he calculates interest monthly for us. He can identify what the projected interest is on that road fund in 5 minutes. But it'll give us a better understanding of where we can be with that fund itself. Yeah. And that might get us where we need to be.
To accomplish.
Well, it might get us to zero. Just squaring it up.
We also talked last week about the interest on the
General.
GLT money too,
So that's all in the LGIP pool. So that's part of all the different restricted funds that are in that 15 million he was talking about.
Right.
Those are all in there. Title III. So
we felt that, my understanding was we thought we could use interest, couldn't use the funds, but we could use interest.
yeah. Well, we're allocating the interest from that fund into the budget at 300,000. So, but the question is that number closer to 4? Right? So I think that's another good question. Now, do we need to allocate it all if we don't have to? You know? But, in a point that Nick brought up, is the operating, right? So that revolving operating fund that's in the LGPI pool, LGIP pool, is certainly healthy enough to sustain some rainy days, you know. And I think once we have the 24, 25 audits, we're going to have a lot better understanding of exactly what portion of that is general fund accessible and not restricted to all these other accounts. We're not going to have a real number until those audits are finished of estimates. Is that right, Leaf?
Yes, that is correct. Once the audits are done, we're gonna have a very heightened sense of where we're sitting, where we're able to allocate money, and then also coming up with a system of how we're allocating it.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
So like if you look at, not to interrupt everyone, but historically, we have well over $2 million increase in balance in just our LGIP pool account. And that's not the road fund. That's just the one where we operationally wise. So it's healthier for sure.
Probably leading that charge is the rollover TLT money. Like 1 point.
And ONC. Yeah, ONC is the big one.
As far as leading to the next piece, we kind of bounced around there. I guess, are there any closing statements on kind of our general fund revenues and expenditures there?
Just back to this real quick. So, but in the budget now, we're not allocating, we have the 1,229 as principal, right, that we're using for patrol.
That's an interest.
Is it?
That's interest.
Interest.
Not principal.
You mean as far as last year when we?
No, we're forecasting.
This year.
Okay.
The 1,229 is interest?
Interest, yeah.
But I think on that other statement, it's still showing the 800,000 predicted.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the road cap improvement fund interest shows 800,000, but then when it shows up on the sheriff's side is showing 1.229.
Really?
Well, that might be the difference.
That's the
Because we went
400,000.
from 17 to 22
17 to 22, what?
million.
4% would be 800.
Be close. I gotta get another cup of coffee.
I just missed that page. Oh, there. Yeah, so you're saying they're dipping into that and they're dipping into principal.
Right.
There. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's that high. I think it's gotta be that.
You get the 1.2.
Yeah.
I think so. Those numbers. Fast in my head.
Dan, what do you see in the
Well, I'm just seeing we have, you know, if we take 20 million at 4%, $800,000. We've got 1,229 in the patrol.
The amount of interest that we're gonna be receiving was not considered when we put that 1.2 number in.
1.2 was decided just to balance that sheriff fund.
I believe it's very similar to the previous year.
It is.
$100,000.
Which is fine, that's not, I don't have an issue with that, I'm just pointing out that that'd be more than this.
So the question then is that 1,229 real?
That is dipping into the principal a little bit.
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing? Okay. Do you know how much are we talking about? 400,000?
Mhm.
Which I have no issue with.
Yeah, I think the follow-up, the budget committee doesn't, it's not an issue. It's
No,
just a
not an
matter of
issue.
make sure the accounting is correct. Or just clarifying.
And just the last question, was, we talked about, so the 309 of general fund, I'm sorry, I'm on the patrol page, excuse me. So we said that did not get adjusted based on the new wage increases?
For the sheriff's office? Yes.
For the patrol.
Yeah, it was.
It did get adjusted?
Mhm.
Okay, so it got adjusted up, obviously.
Yes.
There was also, just to clarify, a budgeted transfer in from the general fund last year, but when we went through and we did the revised budget, it was not needed. So that's why it's showing here, it was, because that 26 budget is the revised budget.
Because it used to go straight from TLT. Now it goes into the general. No, when it was first passed, it was passed as a supplemental last year. So that would have been 25%. And they changed it, but it went to general funds first. I thought that was already allocated, that's,
That's what I heard too.
yeah, right there, that they already accounted for.
See where he's thinking, where will that come from?
Well, that's where I'm still just thinking. Too optimistic. The next piece I was thinking about moving to, which was discussing this. The admin side. Okay, do that. Taking them, that's what it is. Just looking at, asking for this and this here. Breakdown. That's right. Thanks for doing a potty break. Do you guys want to do a quick 5-minute break or anything? Is that good? Yeah, I don't see Miranda, but mics are still
You just
live,
go.
but we can just do a 5-minute break for a couple minutes.
Thank you.
I will make a note as well, if you have any specific requests or comparisons between last year's numbers, this year's numbers, happy to put all of that together, so if there's any specifics that would be helpful, I'll make decisions, just let me know, and I'll just be
back around. Okay, so picking up where we left off, I feel like we went through the revenue side of non-departmental fairly well. So then I'd like to move to,
Just want a little bit of information.
oh, okay, yeah, no, I didn't hear it.
Just on the sheriff report, like,
Yeah, so I misunderstood the question earlier. The sheriff's office budget that was presented Thursday did include PERS, COLA, and elected official increase. All the other departments didn't have a COLA.
however, can I clarify that?
Yes.
That was the one that Sergeant Westerman brought in, but not the one that we had in hand.
I'm talking about the following day when we
Okay.
presented the
Okay.
corrected, like the one set of data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we go next to administrative services. Probably start with just the whole general overview on the indirect.
What do you want, so are we gonna go over all costs? Is that what we're gonna do, Nick?
I would, yeah, because just looking at resources and costs, just working through that. So that is the last page right before reserves and grants. It's basically, working through the request from, the prior way of, from what we were calculating off of FTEs or whatever it may have been. Last year's budget allocating about 2 million of resources. This year's request is 2.9 million. So that's, an extra 900,000 coming out of the general fund. I see a lot of that is the IT.
Well-
600,000 of that is IT.
So actually, what it is that last year's number is misrepresented by about 500,000 because the IT budget, right, had 500,000 allocated that came out of ARP funds, the last bit of ARP funds. So the real number for last year is that number plus 500K. You see where I'm, you see what?
I do remember the ARP.
Yeah,
funds.
so that's the real number. So the deficit and change is not actually fully reflected because the ARP funds aren't reflected in that administrative cost. So the real difference in costs is closer to the 400,000, which is gonna be right in line with the roll-up costs. So that's the real change.
Okay, yeah, no, I remember unused ARP funds.
Yeah, so that's why it looks so drastically different. The good news is, going forward, those numbers are gonna be very much, they're gonna be more realistic, or not realistic, they're gonna more reflect what's actually being spent in those departments, as opposed to kind of bifurcated in different areas, so it makes it difficult to round.
Well,
But-
he's still, yeah, so, and just personnel services, 600,000. And then materials and services. I mean, yes, using the 500 from ARP, but still, yeah, total personnel is 600,000. And material services another 360. I mean, we're right back up to almost 1 million. And most of that is professional services, 100,000, computer software is 200,000. So are those softwares? I mean, they don't look like one-time funds. It's 200, 300, 200.
Software costs, I believe, include like licensing, for like Microsoft, Adobe and all that.
Yeah.
And then pro services, I think, is LCOG assistance.
So yeah, what I'm getting at is, if salaries are 600, and those are licensures and professional services of 300. I mean, next year is going to be $1 million also. And when you encompass all that together, I mean, we're at 3 million, so that's 30% of our operating budget. I mean, I don't really know if I have a question in there, if that's just a general statement, but that's, I mean, just.
In talking to our IT director, there's a lot of end-of-life things that they're replacing. So I don't know, I couldn't predict if that's going to be occurring every fiscal year, but I know there's a $300,000 project that we're starting now.
That was unbudgeted, or? That was not budgeted, or?
It's getting paid for this.
Yeah,
year.
this year.
This year.
Mhm.
Question remains, was it budgeted or not
It
budgeted
was unbudgeted and will require a supplemental budget.
this year? Okay.
So part of that's in that for next year, or no?
No, but I think the professional services cost estimate is tied to that because they're gonna need some assistance implementing, I can't remember if it's a server or something like that, but it's going to require.
Which I think we already included an additional FTE in this upcoming one, going from 292 to 375. Again, I wish I had answers to solve, I mean, IT problems, but it's just looking at that going forward, just admin costs. You know, I don't know what comparable counties are. Google is like, 10 to 15% of admin for budget. We're at 30.
We'll go back to what you just said. So then we did put in an extra FTE in for this year, you think?
I think so. From 292 up to 375.
Have it right here. Yeah, there is, within the IT, on the whole, just the whole increase worksheet, there is a vacant position for the IT specialist one that is included on there.
Yep, and that is, we have that this year as well. It's not even. It could be, that position was unfilled for the majority of the previous year, so we adjusted down in the revised budget. You have to look at the actual document.
Okay, like it was allocated last year but not filled.
Right, and so we dropped that personnel number halfway through the year if it was unfilled.
So we did not add an FTE, would have been a currently open position.
Correct.
Yes, so in the proposed request on this personnel cost worksheet, the current ask asked was to actually remove that IT specialist one, that vacant position we see in the payroll worksheet we got back, and to add the half-time AV media specialist instead. So that would actually reduce the IT personnel cost by like 52,000, if that request is approved. It's one of the good news in this comparison worksheet.
Okay, I remember that conversation. So that would be removing that IT specialist, and that half-time actually falls into, was it economic development? Okay.
I think we have to be a little careful here with, maybe not so much in that, some of these other ones that predicated upon these other assets, right? Some of these changes that show reduction in quotas are offset by.
The increase in the econ side.
Other side, so not in this one, right?
Also on this one, I should make it clear that this isn't a one and done. It's not like we either have to take all of the changes that are on here or none. You can pick and select whichever ones we feel are the most appropriate.
But in this particular case, we're not taking that FTE and going from route one.
We are not, no, that would just be completely removing that IT specialist. There would be one more FTE allocated, and that's the AV media specialist, and that would be allocated between the two. So you are removing one, but you're also adding one back, just being split between the two departments.
Right, okay. I.e. no savings.
Correct, yeah. I think the net effect ends up being $3,000 of cost savings because the AV specialist, total personnel cost is slightly less, but 3,000 is not, yeah.
I guess what you're teeing up, Nick, is we don't know because we don't operate. But are there some efficiencies in that? I think that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
And if so, what are they? What we can do?
Yeah, generally speaking, yeah, that's what we're looking at.
What are the,
IT's staying, I mean,
You
that,
said
we're, like I say, we're upwards of around 30% of our general fund for admin requests and asks. I was trying to, this sheet isn't quite matching up because I'm looking at, council says current budget on this blue sheet of 177. It's supposed to match like for like, because on here it's saying 215.
Sorry, which you might show.
Yeah. So like this is admin services, indirect services. So I was just going on the transfer out. I guess maybe it's,
Yes, so this is gonna be the actual amount used to cover, so that within the council itself, if you look on the council page.
okay, materials and services in addition to,
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah, so if you wanna look at it line by line, it's gonna be the personnel cost that you see in
Okay.
there, and then there's personnel cost.
okay.
Yeah, this one is just reflective of just personnel costs, there's no materials and services. services, there's no transfers, none of that. It's just trying to do the overall effect just on personnel cost. So, for example, on council, if you look online, county council, line 25 and the 26-27 proposed, that 177, 474 will match up what's on the this other worksheet.
Okay, yeah, you see that. I mean, I guess that's leading in right, or, you know, going right down the same path as my question. You know, if council's suggesting to remove the legal assistant, that'd be a decrease of 120,000 right there. Are these things that have been proposed already, or is this?
They're not in, from my understanding, these are things that are to be considered, but they're not in the budget.
Budget, they're to be considered, yeah.
Right,
But
That's an offering.
yes.
back, but we're putting that back in animal, I think. Right?
They're not dependent on each other.
I guess it's just, if any commissioners want to speak to that one, is there anything structurally wise that streamlines that, or is that the bare minimum on our admin side to operate? Or not even bare minimum, but the comfortable.
Well, it's still in triage. You know, you got, we have a treasurer being the quasi-finance director. We have a legal assistant who's doing animal control and planning. It leaves us essentially where we were, very much in triage. So it's not even bare bones. If that answers your question.
Budget committee?
No, I think the day-to-day operations is hard to make a determination, but it is high. Sure, relative, I'm not saying it's not needed, I'm just saying relative to the overall revenues you point out, it's a high number.
In general fund. But we don't service just general fund.
Yeah, true, that's a good point.
The general fund is about half of our fund. So you could take that to 15%, if you want a real number.
Factor in road department and road.
Road department, every other fund, P&P, everything that's state funded, grant funded, all of our other avenues of funding. The general fund is a small percentage of our overall funding, and we service all of those.
Oh, thank you, that's the clarification right there.
Yeah.
That's good. Honestly, from there, we're looking at how we allocate or how we cover that last 65, and if we change anything to personnel to assist one department
Mike,
at the expense of another.
can I make a suggestion? My suggestion is that we identify what the with the actual interest, projected interest for road, we allocate we can allocate some of the additional interest to cover road fund patrol roll-up costs. That'll free up funding to cover the 65 and probably some of the electeds' salary adjustments. Now, it's been put out by several people, particularly, I could say, and that the commissioners are asking for a raise. The commissioners are not asking for a raise. Commissioners elected to give their salaries to fund the sheriff's office, in particular, part of it, the K-9 program, which no longer exists. It was not cut due to budget cuts. So the compensation committee's recommendation was to reinstill those salaries back to what they were expected to be. Now, currently, the commissioners are the lowest paid employees in the county. They're the lowest paid commissioners in the state, outside of ones that are volunteer. There's a couple of counties. So it's not a request in doubling, although it essentially looks that way because reinstilling the salary back to what it was normally plus 3 years of roll-up costs does look in that way. And so I'm now, again, like I said, if it's not there, I'm not interested. It's okay. But for the other 4 electeds, treasurer, clerk, assessor, sheriff, I would advocate that we at least work to try to get their salaries in line with the compensation committee's requests. And I'm not speaking for the other 2 commissioners at this time. In my opinion, how it should have been done initially is the commissioners should have been offered the opportunity to just receive and donate the salary back to the program they wished to assist, as opposed to just canceling out the salaries. That had been my opinion. But it was needed at the time. So,
suggestion's good, like, start with that number, right? See what the number is.
So do you want them for just the road pool or just?
yeah, what the road fund reserve allocated interest projection is.
Okay, so I have ours, it's 624,000. But you take that, every month I take that and I divide it amongst all departments. Not, well, all departments, but everyone gets a cut of that already. It's in the allocated interest line on everyone's page. The road fund, go to that real quick. $816,000. That's a low estimate. Conservative.
Annually?
Yeah, just this year, just based on this is just my estimate, conservative, but basically, like last month, it was a little over 70K. So I like to be more conservative, so I did 68 average per month. But I'm definitely underestimating, but I like to be under than over.
So,
But you're taking, excuse me, you're taking that fund down as well, right? Throughout the year, I mean, with projects.
Road?
Yeah.
So every month I get a statement from our Julie in our finance department about what bills are paid down. So it can be anywhere. If last month it was $184,000, it could be up to $400,000. And I take that and I put it in our treasurer's checking account, so I don't have to pull from ours or our LGIP account. So
Do we have any big projects this year?
I don't
Next year, there are some, next year there are some, it would be reflected in their proposed budget, in the road department, but there's some, Carrie was explaining to me some grants are coming down that they, were required to put down 10% of the overall cost of the project, so, but they are reflected in their sheets.
Yeah, I think what you're getting at is, do we have like a $6 million project that we're not accounting for? And there's nothing of that nature, and the majority of the projects that they work through are anticipated revenue to cover. We may have some, we may have to have like a 10% matching, things of that nature, but the majority of it, is. And plus now, with the scary part was when we weren't getting the SRS. Right, like we didn't last year, because that's a significant portion of their overall operating budget, and so then they are dipping into reserves for sure. But the anticipated it going into this next year, all of those things are back in line. So we should be operating in the roads off of the revenues coming in through the state and federal funding sources. They don't use any general fund. So it's just generally, it typically, the roads operates up about a $6 million operating cost. That's their typical year, is about average. Now, with the increase in oil and et cetera, there's going to be some increases there because, you can't chip seal like you could in the past with the costs with oil where it's at. But it's still going to be relatively within a few $100,000 of that. So not going to be major draws from the reserves anticipated. Now, obviously, the bridge goes out. That's a whole different ballgame, But we can't anticipate that.
Another thing that's been happening that Carrie Dexter's working on is we're getting reimbursed from FEMA, but it's a whole process. So we got reimbursement this year from 2021.
Yeah.
That is, it's whenever it comes in, basically. So
We're just excited when it does.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But to answer your question, no major draws anticipated from the reserves. But it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of money there to be in excess of what I had thought, with interest rates going down. So, kind of back to the board. Is there, so, yeah, kind of back to the board. Now, the one area I would say that Nick admittedly was very, very conservative with was the LGIP estimated interest. This year to date, we're at 376. And it's estimated, and he put in the budget for 300. Now, I think we can safely say we're going to cover that 360. We could get to the 365, but we're not now. So that covers that. We're not in a position where we're also now covering some of the compensation committee requests. And if we look at the compensation committee requests, and you start with the 4 electeds increases. That might give us a number. So we could have 2 numbers. You could have including and excluding the commissioners at this point. And, that may give us a target. Because I want to say the other 4 electeds increased by the compensation committee was pretty modest.
All with the exception of the clerk, which I think was the largest of the bunch.
Yeah, but they were still modest in terms of, because they were already at you're talking about 3 years of roll-ups instead of 3 years of roll-ups plus, a donated deficit. The donated deficit part is the one that catches it, makes it out of balance, right? Because we've been donating in some $66,000 over 2 years back to the county. So with no additional roll-ups. So that's the one that makes it look larger. But if we could, could you pull that number, the 4 electeds? So clerk, treasurer, sheriff, and assessor, identify what those compensation committee differences in costs are? Okay, and then that will give us at least a secondary number to look for, to see if we can get there.
I do believe there's more than just the 300,000 in allocated interest within this current one. I know we have another 110 that we put into Towers 3.
Yep, you have it in here, and that's coming out of Title III.
Yes. so
Yep,
that's-
we see that.
Right, and then I believe there's a few more that I can look at later and get the full number of how much allocated interest is put out and look at without the original. Conservatively, I wanna say it's probably around the $500,000 range, what we have. So if the real number is gonna be around 650, then we have about 150.
Okay, so there you go, because, well, what Nick just said is 674. So in LGIP allocated interest in total, so if we're only budgeting 500 of that, then that gives us 170, which might get us where we need to be. Yeah, no, that's great. That's a good point, Leaf. I didn't catch that. Thank you. That's a great point.
Sorry, the 4 that you said were treasurer.
Treasurer, assessor, clerk, and sheriff. You wanna take a quick 5-minute, let them run these numbers?
Yeah, I mean, we're just looking at the, so what we're looking for is the difference between the recommendation and the salary, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she had to go.
Which the majority of that obviously sits in the commissioners, because you're not just doing the roll costs, you're making up the difference in salary. But
Yeah, she had to run downstairs to get it, so.
yeah.
I'll take it.
So if you want, we could take a 5-minute, if you're good with that, Nick.
Numbers? Yeah.
See if we can run the numbers.
It's okay with me. I have a question for you. So title.
Are we running our audio, or? Good. I don't think we turned anything off.
Okay.
Or I know we take care of that.
Oh, gotcha. So there's 200 there. Yep.
I guess the first thing to look at, you mentioned being the lowest in the state as commissioners, other than those that are volunteers. Just looking at a few of the counties similar to us that were included in the compensation committee was Grant and Malheur. If you look at Grant, they got a budget a little bigger than ours, are 88 million. They have
Hey.
78 FTEs. Their commissioners are at 31,000. They just brought on a county administrator. So then if you go to the next Malheur, it's actually pretty spot on with us. $69 million budget. They're a little bigger. They have 178 FTEs. They do not have a county administrator, and they're at about 47,000.
So if you look, those are half-time positions. You don't leave that part out, please.
Okay, half-time positions, but same budget as ours, 68,
Okay,
68 million.
Just don't leave that part out.
But so you have two approaches there.
So if you went full-time with that position, what are you at?
You're at 94,000.
Okay.
And then but they also have 180 employees. So I guess the two there, those are the two closest to us. One without county administration and one with. So that kind of goes back to that. I mean, does the board take on more responsibilities at that level? Going to 88?
Well, did the board take on less responsibilities by giving ourselves a cut?
No, and I'm
You
not
want to
saying-
talk about that?
Yeah, the cut was a generous thing from the board of commissioners. Not going to downplay that.
Well, that's what, I mean, essentially the conversation is if even just getting back to whole by taking back money that wasn't being used, is that an option?
Repaying the donations.
No. That's already done. Just getting back to whole. Previous whole. 70, whatever it was.
Oh, would you guys not be able to, that's already been budgeted, right? Does the budget committee have to approve your donations or cuts?
No, they approved,
The additional 22,000 back to each commissioner. What's done over the past 2.5 years is done, and that's fine, we're not asking for any of that back, but we're just saying, going forward, bump it back up to where it was previous.
Yeah, what had been approved prior years before
Correct.
you began to donate.
Correct.
and then we just don't do any,
don't
4
do
years of,
anything.
4 years of roll-up costs are gone away.
Right. Right.
I don't see any issue with that. I believe it being approved already once before. And that's where my vote would be.
Yeah, I'd certainly concur with that, I think.
With the administrator that you guys have, and then asking for a deputy administrator as well.
Well, all the asks are going away.
Right, so that's going away. Just that being top-heavy with the size of our county.
So can I clear up something there too? Okay. So in the past, there was a county administrator and a county council. We only had a county council. Then when the cyber attack happened, we needed one single point of contact because things were happening within minutes, decisions need to be made, right? So we assigned our county council the additional duties of a director of county operations. And he received about a $20,000 increase at the time for the additional duties of being the county director of operations. So it's not two positions. It's a person doing two roles. So, and there wasn't compensation that equated for two positions, which I've seen floated all over the place. I've seen them saying that he's getting paid to be the roadmaster, or this, or that. And the reality is the director of county operations oversees those positions that are vacant, and so subsequently is responsible to ensure that those roles continue at no additional money. So we made substantial cuts to the county, 30-some%, to ensure that the jail could be funded, because the jail was being funded with one-time funds, remember? Okay. Well, the brunt of that 30-some% was from all the other general funded departments, clerk, assessor, treasurer, admin, those, right, to pull from, because remember, patrol was not cut due to covering the jail. That was a different fund. That was a road fund expenditure. So these other departments had to downsize and essentially take on more duties so that we had enough money to fund a mandated job in the jail. That's not really been explained very well. Now, everybody still is doing those multiple jobs from that cut to ensure that we had money for the jail. So what we were hoping is to get out of that triage mentality, right? So that was the issue. That was the hope. Now, we're not going to get there. Obviously, we see that. It's disappointing. It's frustrating. Unless we're going to cut positions, right? But then we're in a different kind of triage. So that's how we got to where we are. Now, during that time, that's when the commissioners elected to cut their own salary to help make up the difference. But the duties didn't change.
Realistically, moving forward, you see this county getting out of triage? I mean, what, are we either making cuts, or are we growing revenue
Well, with the current state of economics, right? There's no way we can suffice. There's no way we can continue to grow at the rate of inflation on 3% increases in property tax. That's period. So we have to look for alternatives, right? That's why Commissioner Hollinger was working on timber, and, we were working on ONC, and we were working on TLT and all these things, because we're just one of many that are getting suffocated. And so now, super proud of the work that everybody's been able to do to maintain the service delivery that we can with what we have, certainly, because it meant really, really knuckling in and taking on multiple roles, like several people, up here. But and that we're operating off of sustainable funds, not one-time funds, which is what got us where we are. So, to answer your question, Joe, unless some of these other things come to fruition, we're always going to be just hoping to manage our roll-up costs.
So, it's probably on the budget committee, but is there a policy going
motivation, just trying to get, whatever it be, like you're saying, maybe not 5% or $3,000 off of each department every year, and just say, guys, this is what we're doing going forward, so that we will always be able to stay ahead of the, so we don't get into triage worse than we already are. Because if you're not gonna grow revenue, then you gotta cut expenses. If salaries, COLAs, PERS are gonna continue going up, you're gonna somehow have to have less employees that are more efficient. And I don't know if you wanna just put that to the elected officials and the departments, districts, whatever, just put it down on them and say, here, you're gonna have to go with less each year, under that 3%. But I just feel like if we just approve everything and say, hey, we're just making it on this budget, we're just gonna go forward until some timber stuff comes through, or the TLT goes, gangbusters or something like that. I don't see this county getting out of this situation.
You were gonna say something, Nick?
I think with what we're finding out about ONC, not say future's bright, but it's gonna improve. And then as far as other strategic planning with staffing, I mean, one thing is, if you want to, like, say for the finance director position, we have to find someone, but are we going to fill that role? Hopefully, but it's hard to find someone to do that role out here. So even if we're approving it, will it come to fruition? Who knows? So I think the best bet is to look on the bright side, and hopefully it does get filled. If that means, you know what I mean?
But
We don't have the money allocated for that position, do we? In this budget?
But we need.
Proposed, yeah, but just with roll, it's fine.
no.
As you stated, just staff increases, and we find ourselves each year at the same status quo where we're at.
Yeah. Now, just so Eric and Leaf, one option we have going forward is once Eric and Leaf get us through our audits, we could look to reduce the amount of contracted services we have with them, reallocate that into a director position. And then the director will be coming into a audited, balanced budget that they can operate off of. But we gotta get that done first. So there's that, but but that's not increased revenue or anything, that's just replacement funds. Instead of doing this, we do this. But in the future, it certainly would be prudent to examine that. But we gotta get that stuff finished first.
So part of Joe's comments relative to efficiency, as we look at it, year 1, year 2, year 3 of the improvement cycle, generally, there's always an opportunity to skinny down the amount of work, just because over years, organizations start doing things they really don't need to do in order to complete their mission. I think in our situation for the last 24 months, we've probably boiled down to the bare essentials in many of our departments. So that type of efficiency is going to be hard to capture. But if you look at another important tool, or our approach to efficiency, that is with tools. What are the tools that we can bring on board that will make one person do 3 or 4 people's work? I don't think we've touched that.
That sounds like a little bit, when you have people doing multiple roles, maybe they're not being super efficient, they're just doing long days, but, it seems like you guys are there, it might be the triage mentality, it has to be what we do going forward, it's like, hey, we're in this county.
Or we start investing in the tools. That's where my thinking was headed.
Yeah.
And for the Budget Committee and for the BOC, as we go through our strategic visioning, what are the areas that tools can be multipliers in terms of our ability to provide services in unimaginable ways? until you actually get in and understand the power of those tools and the fact that we're so much in the dark ages.
So, sounds like the budget committee, we can approve a status quo budget with, with the compensation committee's, suggestions minus the commissioner's inclusion.
If I could, I'm gonna decline my pay increase. Just, you guys should be, I know it's not a lot, but I'd like to decline mine if that helps at all.
I think it's just,
I mean,
yeah, no, it's,
I mean, I don't,
super gracious.
I just feel like there's a lot going on with the commissioners, and the sacrifices you've made for all this time, I'd rather that the commissioners get that approved, in my opinion. So if whatever little bit helps. I have no idea, but I think I mean, I have no idea how it works. I mean, is it illegal? I'm not sure, but I mean, if you guys can decline it, as elected officials,
Well, I think if the budget committee makes recommendations to return the commissioners back to pre-cut days, so 2023 salary, that at least allows the opportunity for the commissioners to then decide to make their own donations if they choose. And then that gets us right to where basically we would be with the allocated interest. We're right there.
yeah, in my opinion, there's enough money to cover that.
Within the budget committee, right, do we adjourn, can we pause for a moment to discuss, or?
Well, the idea is to discuss in a public meeting, so, I mean, you're not gonna offend us. You're not gonna, I mean, not gonna offend us. I'm gonna step out, then I'll get a cup of coffee.
So I guess, still being recorded, and you guys can
Want to call a break?
Sure, just call a quick break and then.
back.
All right. So, what are we thinking?
All right, I've been on the committee 3 years and I think, you know, first and foremost, I think, that all people in the county, including the commissioners, everybody, I mean, I think what everybody in this room has been through, and everybody that's listening, it has been a very tough program. My background being in the wood products business, I mean, I've been laid off 300 or 400 people over my career, and just no fun, and cuts and wage cuts and staff cuts and all kinds of things, and so it's no fun. But I think from what I saw 3 years ago to where we are now, I agree with Nick. I think, and everybody else here, I think the county's become, obviously the services aren't what they were, but I think everybody's tightened their belt and done the best they can to provide the best service they can with the funds you have. And the funds that we have, as we're all talking about, it is what it is, and so we're gonna have to live within those budgets. And, but I admire what the commissioners did back then. I think a lot of people will forget that, and it's easy to forget, but that was right down to the end, and you guys took that money and applied it where it should go. And I wanna commend you guys for that. My view may be just a little different on this, but I think there was a lot of asks this year, and I look back to like the DA with the software, become more efficient, instead of paper files, having, you know, computer files. And there was a lot of asks, and I think, I'm not sure we're knowledgeable enough to make decisions about how that should be spent, but if there's a couple $100,000 we think of extra interest to be used, I think that should be something that the commissioners and your staff should determine where that should go. I really do. I don't think that's something we just laser focused on elected officials or extra FTEs. I think you have to decide what the priorities are for those asks and make sure that, A, we're gonna be efficient with that, or maybe some things, I mean, that just stuck out in my mind, is that's something I think is really an efficient thing to do. IT talked about a few things, I think. And I'm not saying those are the right things to do, but I really think there needs to be more time spent on the asks to spend that 200 than just looking at elected officials. Personally, that's my opinion. And you may get to that point, that's something you think you should do. And I don't want to take away from what you guys have done. I think it's to be commended, and I think anybody listening to this today should never forget what you guys did. I mean that sincerely. So I'm not against it. I just think there were a lot of things that we're not able to look at this year because there's no money. And is this the only thing that we should look at? So,
But
if you want us to stay more engaged and have more discussion about that, we can. I kind of lost track of, there was a lot of presentations and things that were asked for. Some made sense, some probably didn't, but.
So, real quick, Dan, and maybe there's something that is not being quantified, but the asks that were materials and services are in there. The only asks, no, the asks that aren't are FTEs, is that correct?
The asks are in there.
Yeah, they are.
They are, yeah.
So the asks, the DA software program, all of that, those asks are in there. What's not included are FTEs. That's the part that is left out.
That 200,000 is on top of all of the requested from all departments.
So,
Previous
yeah.
spreadsheets that have been sent.
Thank you for that. I misunderstood that.
So that's why this sheet exists, because this is really what we are operating off of, the priority list of this sheet, because the rest of the material services, contracted services, things like that, that help to make us more efficient are already included.
Were you saying this was not done?
That's not
This is
included.
the meeting asked.
Yes, yes.
stand corrected on what I said. So I thought some of those other asks were taken out. So with that in mind, still, in that conversation, are there FTEs that should be in the consideration too? I don't know. I think that all should be looked at. And are the three of us the best ones to make that decision? I don't know.
Well, the good news is,
My colleagues here too.
the good news is you don't have to make the decision, we do, but you get to make the recommendation. That's the good news.
Well, I think the sentiment is the same, even knowing that, the materials and services are within the budget. I would still, I guess, maybe looking at deferring, like, commissioners, is it that extra funds that we found, is it for department heads and elected officials, or is there a critical FTE to fund?
Well, I don't think it would be any department heads. I don't know, what we were discussing in terms of compensation committee doesn't include department heads, but they already have theirs. That's included in the roll-up costs. The only thing that never gets included in the roll-up costs are elected officials, who have been excluded for 4 years now, which is why I brought that.
And again, please understand, I'm not taking away from any elected official or what you're doing, the job you're doing is tremendous. It's not that. It's just the only thing of the ask. Now understanding it's just FTEs that we should look at. And maybe it is.
Well, the other question is, there possibly wouldn't even be enough for an FTE when you include benefits, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it may not even equate to an FTE. So that's another consideration.
And just one FTE for the finance director is $196,000, so pretty expensive for one FTE, right?
That would also be mitigated because our cost of that.
Yeah. Well, so
We have contracted services allocated.
for that,
Shell it off one.
so the reality there is Joe, we have,
Trying to get your, supporting you on your point about the FTE.
right.
Backfire.
Yeah, no, I understand. But that's a good, because the average, like when you do all of the additional costs of, well, not only that, but then we have to figure out a way to sustain that one FTE. If we're gonna increase by an FTE, that means we gotta figure it out next year. Or we're just back to where we were, spending funds, in an unsustainable manner, potentially, if you will. Because this, in my opinion, this issue with deferring elected salaries would be going into year 5 or 4, isn't going to go away next year. It's just going to grow larger. And I really want to make sure that, if nothing else, our clerk, assessor, treasurer, and sheriff are compensated.
So when we go back to like the IT change here, why would we do that?
Sorry?
I said, why would we do that? There's no offsetting like the $52,000 savings here.
Just for that example, the 52,000 would be savings for IT. However, then the APD specialist would be split with econ development, which then increases by 50.
Okay.
So the net effect is really just a $3,000 decrease.
Is it 3,000 decrease?
Correct.
Okay.
The AD specialist costs slightly less than the IT specialist.
Okay. So again,
Yeah, they're saying decrease
it's a
overall.
Decrease overall.
Correct.
So why wouldn't we do that?
I think that's a approval and discussion.
that the only one?
That's the only one that offsets, right? Well, I should correct that, also the finance director would offset our fees as well, so those are the two offsetting ones.
Well, and the legal assistant position would have some offsets as well.
So, putting this aside, shouldn't we take some action on this right now? Let's take some decisions here that are offsetting. Why not do that first?
Sure,
Don't you think?
I'm all for it.
Find cost savings and more efficiency, why wouldn't we capitalize on these? So,
Yeah,
so on the IT one, why not? Right? Anybody disagree with that?
no, not at all.
Okay. Progress. Very good way.
So,
And correspondingly, you're doing the economic development as well.
Correct, yeah.
Right.
If you approve the IT, you're also approving.
Yes, yeah, as
Right.
listed in this.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
worksheet.
the important part of that conversation is that the econ dev portion is being fulfilled by TLT funds,
Yeah.
restricted TLT funds, right? So we're making best use by putting a human resource in those funds that'll have, X factor back to the community.
Lots of leverage.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So next we said the county council one? That just offsets, so is that?
Well, that really would only offset if we had offset it with like community development director, something of that nature. And, the other reality of this is, these decisions can be made, after the budget's approved and we have more idea of what our carryover looks like, and, we can be looking at some of this in mid-fall, as opposed to right now, when we get another audit under our belt, we're getting closer to our next audit, and we really have a good understanding and grasp on the number. So it doesn't all have to be worked out. In fact, most likely we will be discussing some of these, in the fall.
I think as I've discussed with Joe before, and we're approving the blueprint
Yeah,
for you guys to work through,
yeah,
to then truly make changes that's necessary to operate as you're the final authority on the
Right.
budget.
that's a good way to present it, my opinion. Yep. But yes, the IT, econ dev, low-hanging fruit. That's certainly low-hanging fruit. I mean, I guess. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at that, maybe so 52, right, is what we're expending. Is that right? Yeah, 52. 52, 6. I think it's 52, 619. Okay. So,
IT would decrease by the 52, econ development would increase by the 49.
yeah, okay. So, if we're speaking, rough numbers, right? So 200 minus the 65 we got to get to, just to be zeroed, right? So we got 135 to work with there.
Yes, and then the other thing that we had discussed as well was to increase the transfer from the road capital improvement to the sheriff's patrol, thus removing the general fund contribution, which is gonna free up about 300 there as well. So that was what we had talked about earlier.
Yeah, but I don't know that we have enough interest allocated for that to happen. It didn't sound like there was enough. So I think we're back to 160,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanna clarify.
or 135, which is essentially, we got about 135 to figure out how to best utilize. You take the 52 for the IT, low-hanging fruit, right?
It's only three.
It would be three, because the 50 is an offset fund development.
Okay,
So it's, yeah, just, 3 is added back.
3,
Yes.
great.
Just 3,000.
Okay, so we're at 135, okay, so now, that's really what we got to work with.
I thought you had a thought though on the 65, thought you had.
Yeah, on the 65, I can, the $65,000, it's gonna be covered with the marijuana tax and then the CAFA. It's gonna be covered, and also, any other unforeseen deposits we get. I'm not worried about that at all.
Okay,
Which means then that.
so we got two,
Our revenue may be understated a little bit. I think.
Yeah. Mhm.
so then we got 2. So 2 minus the, or, so, yeah, so 2 total. Well, that puts us in a little better position. We have some options. We have some options. Getting the electeds, the non-commissioner electeds, to the compensation committee's request, it gets us to 20, that's 21. So now we're at 180. And that covers the treasurer, assessor, sheriff, and clerk. So we got 180. Now the question is how do we best utilize that?
I guess I just want to hear your input. I mean, do you have these that are asked for, and you realize we don't have, in some cases, enough for a full FTE, but in some cases we do, so
Yeah.
is that the best use of the funds?
Well, at 180, I mean,
I don't know that we'll make the decision today, but if we do make a decision today, I'd like us to consider a position at the courthouse to enhance security in the budget cycle of 2026-27. We're going to spend roughly $200,000 over there for improvements in the security, and without some additional resources, the sheriff's organization is saying they can't staff that in a manner that will actualize the quest for security.
Do we feel, Nick, that there's still a few unknowns relative to, I mean, will another, I don't know what our time frame is here, will another week reveal a little more firmer look at the revenue? I mean, there's some, or do you think that's?
I mean, it could, but it would just be like daily deposits, things I'm unaware of. As far as the big numbers, like the 65 and the Owens, we pretty much have a good idea of what the big chunks are. But things like come in all the time that they could be big, could be small. I don't know. Like today, I was just checking our account today, and we got multiple deposits from different departments, but there's nothing grandiose. So it's just more of.
That's this year. I'm talking about though, as far as
Oh,
forecast for this budget, upcoming budget. Is there anything else that you already said you
here's a light here, a little light there. I mean, and I go back to what was the conversation we had with the department heads on putting revenue back in that they weren't, fees, planning fees.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, is it okay?
He's,
I approve.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So on the request list, besides the FTEs, we had the one request because we're gonna lose our nurse, and we need to double up training time, and so we'd like to just sort of reminder,
That's $8,000 from.
I think it was $8,000.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So something to please consider.
And the only thing that sits in the back of my mind is as we're squeezing the last bit out of, this upcoming budget, it's predicated on the fact that we have to hit that, 10 million mark, money coming in. So as we're arguing on money that's, still actually gonna be a deficit. And some one-times. I mean, I don't know if, we've never had any rainy day budgeted in. And we're gonna face the same step increase once again next year. Do we have a next meeting scheduled after this?
No, we don't.
Okay, I feel like we may have been reaching a stalemate, or if no one's.
So, I was talking to Lisa about this just a couple minutes ago. If you guys would like us to go back, there's a couple little errors that were made, like in the juvenile department and like possibly aquatic safety, that just need kind of shored up. And then, to add those two changes, I believe that you guys wanted, or just to firm up which of the asks are like a definitely yes, and we can come back and bring you something on Monday. But after that, we're really cutting it close for the required publication for the budget hearing for the BOC adoption. So we don't have a whole lot of time.
Are those changes positive or negative?
Once we get the cumulative, like, everything we wanna go through, I'm gonna update them on Friday, and I'm gonna get the net result of that.
Minimal, like 59.
The plan that I was thinking of as well, just to make it kind of easier for comparison, I don't wanna put anything into the approved column yet, because it hasn't been approved yet. My thought process was to create a proposed V1 or V2 column right next to this proposed, and highlight the ones that change, so you can very clearly see what the net effect of the changes that we have on here. When it comes to wanting to approve those, I'll get rid of whichever column we don't want, and we'll move that into the approved from that. That's provide basically the same spreadsheet, one more column added that's the proposed with the changes that we're talking about today and wanting them.
What's our, what we're required for lead time on publishing date for adoption?
Usually about 10 days. The legal minimum is 5 days, but depending on the date that's selected in the newspaper's requirement for when they receive the publication, it's always better to err on the side of caution, so we don't miss it. So it's like 10 days.
So like Wednesday the 24th would be adoption.
That would be great. If possible. We can push it, I mean, the 30th is a Tuesday, I wanna say. It can go all the way out to the 30th, that's the absolute last day, obviously.
That last week. If you want, I think we're close, you want to push through and get this, or sit on these few changes?
we're close. We're really close. I mean, if we got essentially 200 is what we're looking at. minus the 20 for the electeds, 21, we're at, okay, 180. To put the commissioners back to whole is close to about 70 when you include benefits. Just a regular back to whole, no roll-up costs. So that's one. The other option is, we look at some positions. Because if you did that, if we made that recommendation, now we're at 120. We got 120 to go looking, or 110 to go looking around at what we want to do. Now, to fulfill Lynn's request, that's gonna take a little bit more.
Is that request on here, Under Sheriff, or no?
No.
It was part of their package. The sergeant was specifically asked if that was a requirement that was folded into her FTEs, and it was a part of the FTEs that she was seeking. She's here, she can.
I missed it, I'm sorry.
So we're discussing the opportunity to consider funding one of your FTEs that you were asking for last week. It would have been the FTE that would cover the scope of work for courthouse security.
Oh, for the jail. Corrections division?
Pardon me? It's courthouse security?
That falls under the corrections division.
Okay. Yeah.
And that cost there is the full personnel for Julie with the increases.
Yeah, the 112.
Well, there were. That's one. We're right there. Then that's 112.
Got
Yeah,
8,000.
110. If so, that increases public safety by 1 FTE and decreases IT by half FTE, increases econ dev by half FTE, and fulfills 70% of the compensation committee's ask. Ish.
I have a suggestion to make regarding that corrections position. And hopefully maybe freeing up a few more funds, hopefully maybe for rainy day. There's a current FTE position that hasn't been filled over the past year in the sheriff's office, and we approved the civil and animal patrol. That hasn't been filled, and it doesn't look like it's going to get filled. Why don't we make that position the communications position for the court that they're asking for?
You mean corrections?
Or the corrections. Get rid of that. I mean, you're just horse trading.
Right. I presume that we would head that way.
Right, because then that will also be able to free up more funds here to get the 8,000 for the nurse. You make the commissioners whole, and then the remainder, I think we just leave as a rainy day fund because we know what to expect again with what's going to come up next year. So we're not adding an FTE, we're just horse trading job description for a position that's not being fulfilled. I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Sorry, the vacant position that you said we would be transferring, which department was that?
Civil patrol.
Civil. I just want to make sure.
what's the operational impact of not filling that position, the animal control? Sure, that's
The animal control side has been fulfilled by Rabia.
Oh, okay.
But then what that also, then what that also might do is that additional 50,000 for the IT, the half of the IT, we can still retain that needed position as well.
I would say that if we went that route, my suggestion would be that we hold off on allocating the remainder of that till the fall to see where we are. And see what money actually, all the monies that come in. And then we can reconvene, do a supplemental if we have the excess, if we have that, and then allocate it towards a position that we see after the dust settles as more of a, maybe something that is glaringly important and needed. Or we apply it to an animal control, half-time animal control position that's separate from what Rabia is doing, and we get a half-time person in here to do animal control, and have community development or basically it would fall under, I guess the BOC at that time in terms of supervision.
More operations, so it's really hard for us to.
Yeah, where it lies is not.
Yeah.
I'm just talking out loud, trying to figure that part out. But it could be allocated towards that, towards a halftime animal control position that we may or may not be able to fill. And that's a good placeholder, because since we do have an animal control district, we do have to provide that service, unless we choose not to be a district. So there is that.
Should we recap what we just talked about?
Yeah, I have just the summary of changes that I was gonna build up
Okay.
right now, and you can let me know. What I have in here so far for the proposed changes that we're going to be doing and send back on Monday would be to increase the allocated interest by 200,000. We're going to do the IT personnel for reduction, gonna increase.
Which is on 3,000, right?
It comes out to net. I will say, looking at the economic development, there is operating contingency here as well. And so there would be further savings. If we were to increase economic development personnel costs by over 10,000, I can offset the contingency with open up that 49,000 to be able to use for other resources.
Let's make sure we're all following. So you're saying that net effect of that would do what?
That would, for econ development, would be zero. There would
Right.
be no increase, decrease, it would be zero. IT would then be 52,000, so there's 52,000 in savings from the IT personnel. There's gonna be $200,000 more in the allocated interest, so right now we're sitting at $250,000 in savings. If we use that to cover some of the deficit, which is 65, so we're at 252 minus the 65.
He's already got that
Yeah,
covered.
with 65, you can factor that out.
Oh, you
60, yeah, it's gonna be covered.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, I'm guaranteed.
Without the allocated interest?
Without the interest.
Okay, perfect. So then we are at 252 that we have to play with. Then I believe that we're gonna do jail. We're going to increase for the IRR salary. We're gonna add the corrections deputy, but we're gonna remove the civil processor, which I think the net effect of that will probably be around 10,000. Please correct me if that sounds incorrect.
Ish, right?
Ish.
Ish, yeah. You're gonna be right there.
Okay, and then we have the EO increase for all of the treasurer, the assessor, for the sheriff comes out to like 20, which is gonna be a reduction. So right now, we're sitting at around 232. And I don't know where we settled on the commissioner, so I haven't put this in here yet, but
And you had the 8,000 for the nurse, right?
Yeah.
You already had that in there, I'm sorry.
That's the IRR.
So you're down
Oh,
to
okay.
224?
Well, I guess.
No, he already added it.
Okay.
I'm gonna add another 10 for that, I'm just gonna add 10, so that's 222.
I thought you had the IR. Is that not?
That's,
That was, well, so if we add the corrections deputy, remove the civil processor, I'm assuming that those kind of will equal out, then we need the 10,000 for the IRR, so that'll subtract from the 232 by 10, getting us to
Okay.
222.
Okay.
The
222.
budget notice on approval, the actual budget for adoption has to be posted, right? For those 10 days.
Yep.
Yeah, we could.
Well, it really just needs to be posted at least 5 days before. It's just with the newspaper timing, I need a couple days sometimes to make sure it gets on the appropriate television. So I think if we have a solid, proposal anytime next week,
Yeah, once,
early to midweek.
I was gonna say,
would be
once
good.
proposed, it cannot be, if you change anything of it, it has to go back to the 5 days of.
The board can
notice.
choose to take or leave recommendations at the time of the hearing, is my understanding.
Yeah.
But I think best practice is that it is as close
Yeah.
to.
Well, if we add in all those changes, to see where we sit, you know, I guess the budget meeting have to, I was wondering if we could do a teleconference, so you guys don't have to come in early next week for a very quick approval for submission for adoption. If we do all those and then just that Monday would be something that we approve, then looking at elected official increases. So, all of them. All those changes with what's left over. And then the final question would be elected officials, then push that through to an adopted budget. I guess what constitutes quorum, or like if these guys can just phone in for a quick,
That's okay.
that would be the only remaining item left on the table after we see
And just to
your
clarify as
adjustments.
well, when you're saying with these changes, do you want to see with the commissioners increase with these changes or without?
What we do it without any elected officials at this time?
I mean, the number's here, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's
165.
yes, that's what you would see. Yes, if you want to see the changes with the commissioners and the elected officials, it would be that 185. And there you have, so we had, let's see, it'll be 240 to play with without the elected official increase. So we would still have with those changes around 40,000 left over with the commissioners and the increases.
Or back to full? And then approve the elected, back to full and the elected officials increases. Which back to full would be,
Roughly 70,000 is the number, back to whole, total for the.
would change that from 185 to 70. Or 2023, before they donated.
Oh, I see.
And that would still leave us.
Did you follow that, Lee? Did you follow what he was doing?
Well, maybe don't commit it to pencil just yet, but.
Well, of course, yeah, so I'm seeing on here that the commissioners to bring them full is gonna be a difference of 164,000.
That's true whole. He wants to back to 2023,
Okay, that's the piece I was missing.
back to 2023 numbers.
If it's possible to get an updated one of those 2023 numbers, that would be helpful.
Well, they don't have them.
Oh.
That's what Jay floated. Back to full. But they were approved for in 2023, which was
If you went to 70 on that salary, we're looking at, it's gonna be about half of that total, half that 164. Is that right? A little over half, doing the math? Am I close? Be about half. Well, probably about 60% of that. About 60% of that, 164. So, 85. $85 to $90, I guess. So if you took that if you just round up, go 90, right, conservative. Then you take the 90 off the 222, and then that's what's left over to really, if you wanted to go that route, which is 112? Yeah. So there would be about 100, a little over 100,000 left over. At that point. That makes sense, Nick?
Yeah.
Okay.
That-
Just making sure the math is mathing.
Yeah. that
Okay.
helps. Yeah, if we don't make projections, also it gives us a little bit of a little cushion.
Yeah. Okay. So, so I guess the thing is if we're pretty settled in that, right where we are, and there's not gonna be any major changes, these changes aren't huge. Could make literally a motion with these changes in it as a proposed, so that we don't have to come back if you want. Or they can go in and physically make all the changes and then we come back with that. I'm just trying to be sensitive of your time.
Motion could be, with provided the numbers come back with what we're talking about. Contingent upon that, we could do the motion.
Yeah, it all reflects kind of what we're getting.
Yeah.
One thing to point out as well in this that hasn't been factored into this calculation yet are the potential changes to juvenile as well as the aquatic safety.
And
So-
any other
And then,
small.
yeah, any other small changes as well. So if there's.
We're just coming back. We'll come back.
It might get reduced with the changes there, but at least then there's some wiggle room as well.
We don't know what that might be roughly.
We haven't had time to go through every single one of these yet, so we'll get that done tomorrow. Usually, we'll put it together and then we'll have a YouTube.
Yeah, I just wanted full transparency so that when you come back and it goes from 120 to 40 or whatever it may be, then you don't want to.
Okay, sounds like we're coming back.
Well, that's what I was wondering on the, like, remote, if it goes back, really we're coming back just to say, we approve to adopt, just then puts it to the 10-day.
Yeah, no notice period.
So would we be able to do that in remote for these guys, that we get your revised edits? You three, we probably have to sit down, right? I'm
Yeah.
5 minutes away, so I can come back.
Yeah,
They can phone in and just,
we'll be here.
and these edits would be done by Friday.
Friday in the day.
Friday in the day. We got the weekend.
Yeah,
We got-
I have the travel tomorrow to get back home, and then Friday I'll be back on, and contingent that we have all the numbers ready to go, and I'll just get it updated Friday.
And everything for you there.
Yep, then Monday.
They're not giant changes, so it'll be done.
Monday,
Be like a Monday after, I'm gonna be in Agnes in the morning, but like a Monday afternoon.
sure. You wanna do like Monday at 2?
It's just a phone call and approval. Is there anything else before we?
Say Monday at 2 o'clock?
Monday at 2 o'clock. Works.
You guys can just call in.
I'm probably gonna send a Zoom link, you won't be able to see the room, but we'll be able to hear you and you'll be able to hear us. So that way we can have both of you.
I may just try it. Yeah, I'll see.
Well, thank you. I know this has been a trying process. There was a little bit of opportunity for optimism at the end. That was good. So, thanks again. We'll get her squared away.
Adjourn, next meeting Monday at 2.